Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hi, welcome to the program. It's October 16th. It's a Wednesday, and I'm still alive, which I think is a relatively good sign. I tried mightily to watch the entire debate last night, and I flagged. It was about, I think, 10:15 when I pulled the plug myself. I just couldn't anymore. And not that I didn't at times find it really rather interesting. And I was interested even in my own that's all we have to go on, right? Our own reactions to candidates. I think that is why it's important to watch these things as much as you can tolerate it, because you do see how these potential nominees handle heat, handle how good they are at responding to attacks and clearly enunciating their points of view, and people that you maybe wouldn't have paid any attention to all of a sudden are tugging at your coat sleeve and getting your attention. My reactions to the debate are personal. What I saw was, sifted through my, whatever. My emotions, my brain, the fact of how I was feeling at that particular time. I suppose if I listened to it on a day when I was feeling better, I might react differently. I have no idea. But for the first time, and it was because Elizabeth Warren was under attack, as one would expect, being that she is now perceived, I think, as the front runner every bit as much as Joe Biden, who continues to not impress me as a candidate. He just seems, I'm sorry, that is not the guy we want going up against Trump. And it seems like his only two talking points are, I was Barack Obama's vice president, so he's grabbing onto Obama's coattails, and the other thing is that he says Trump has targeted him and his son Hunter because he's scared of him. And so if Trump thinks I'm the one that he needs to take down, then he's scared of me, and he knows I'll beat him like a drum, as he said 100 million times. Those are the two things he talks about. And after a while, they just don't, I don't know, they don't float my boat, and I frankly don't agree. Whoever's in first, Trump will turn his sights on. I was not thrilled with Elizabeth Warren last night, and maybe that's because she was her deficiencies were being pointed out, concerns about her Medicare for all. I mean, I thought overall it was a treat to watch people who are smart. And I would suggest that all of them on that stage were, to watch smart people wrestle verbally. Who did I like last night? I have to admit, and I've said this before, I liked Klobuchar. I mean, if again, she represents the more moderate, Midwestern Union, old guard Democrat. I have no problem with that. And she represents that, I think, with a lot more energy than Joe Biden. The other one in the moderate category, Buttigieg, I mean, continues to be he's just impressive. But for some reason, last night I was just sort of like, all right, I don't know. Isn't it funny? I have no ability to explain why I was like, yeah, okay. Not as wowed. Tom Steyer annoyed me. He didn't belong on that stage. He bought his way onto the stage. And his very presence there was an indication of how corrupted our political system is. That, billionaires, be they, just rich people, can immediately ascend and have to be taken seriously when somebody without money has to, do it by dint of hard work and eloquence and I don't know, whatever else, because money talks. Money is power. I don't know. Here's who should get off the stage. Steyer, Castro, O'Rourke, Gabbard, and Booker, actually, and even Harris. They all need to go. Harris and Booker both, I thought, had some good points last night, although Harris just shot herself in the foot with that kick Trump off Twitter thing. Who gives a of all the issues, who cares? I thought that was a real tactical error on her part. I've never liked Bernie Sanders as much as I did last night. Boy, he rose to the occasion. The fact that that's a guy who had a heart attack less than 2 weeks ago is amazing because he had more energy than I've ever seen. He even exhibited humor. Who knew he was even capable of it? He laughed. He smiled. He had a personality. I thought he did very, very well last night. And I don't know who I'm forgetting, but Tulsi Gabbard. God almighty. What the hell? I'm just saying, what the hell? If that's a Democrat, then, I'm a Republican. I don't understand why she's in the Democratic Party. She is, by everything I hear from her, suggests that she is a libertarian. A libertarian. If Rand Paul were at the debate, he could have said almost everything she said, I think, and it would have sounded plausible. And I'm also, again, going to reiterate the fact that the Russians love her. And I'm sick of candidates the Russians love. Russian media bolsters her, talks about her more than, why would they be talking about a prospective candidate who's, polling in single digits? There is a sense that there's a lot of bot activity on her behalf, and a sense that they see her as somebody who can disrupt the Democratic Party's democratic process here. I don't know. I wouldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. So, I don't know. Why did Warren look not good to me last night? Bernie is willing to say, look, Medicare for all, yeah, going to have to raise your taxes. But a lot of other money that comes out of your pocket under our current totally dysfunctional system will stay in your pocket. So it might actually be a win or a wash. Who knows? But he's he's honest about it. Warren is not willing to be honest, and they kept trying to get her to say that the middle class will pay more, and she refuses to say it. And I'm sure she's refusing to say it because it can be used against her. But it's not a good look. You gotta like Andrew Yang, I think. Again, a guy coming out of nowhere, but again, by virtue of his money. If he had no money, he couldn't have funded his effort to get into the public eye. But there's something truly, I think, likable about him. And I get a sense of him being a very serious and compassionate man. I like him. So I think that's all I have to say. If you want to put your 2 cents worth in about your reactions, or even if you didn't even watch. My God, are they going to do one of these every month? Because I heard him today talking about so-and-so is already qualified for the November debate. No! I can't do this once a month. Not if they're not going to start winnowing people out. And although, who the hell, I don't know. I'll tell you this. Biden is not our best candidate. He is not. And if all he's got going for him is this sense that he is the guy most able to beat Trump, then that's not, I almost think that Trump wants him, which is why he's like sort of lifting, well, I don't know, that might not be true. Who the hell knows? Oh, God. Do you remember yesterday? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Having a little trouble breathing. Do you remember yesterday when I told you, I think at the end of the show, that, no, that's different. God, Cullen, come on, get your act together. This is a different British couple. I told you that horrible story about the Brits who, wandered over the northern border with little kids, and last time I looked, we're still stuck in some detention camp in Pennsylvania, even though they were apprehended at the other end of the country in Vancouver. It's another British couple. It's the British couple whose son on a motorcycle was killed by the wife of one of our diplomats. There is chatter that the diplomat in question is actually a CIA guy, which is why there's more protectiveness around this, I guess. So this 43-year-old wife of his, driving on the wrong side of the road, takes out a young British man and then flees the country, comes back here. And we're refusing to send her back. The Brits want her to come and, go through their legal system for having taken a life. Whether that was her intent or not, she killed somebody. And she and her husband came to the United States, and I was shocked to hear they actually gained an interview with Donald Trump. I thought, wow, what's in it for him if he refuses to I didn't get it. I couldn't figure it. Well, here's what I want to tell you. It was a setup. It was like a part of the Trumpian reality show universe. He welcomes these two grieving parents to their story, which, you know, he'd have to get an acting award for anyway. And then he springs a surprise on them, a la the Jerry Springer. Look, the woman who killed your son, she's on the other side of that door. We have her here. I wonder, he says to the grieving mother, if you would meet her. Just talk to her. And God bless this British couple. Salt of the earth type people. She immediately could tell this was a setup, that it was a photo op thing. It was only then that she realized there were photographers standing by. I need to read a better account of what I did glean today about this. Trump only listened compassionately to them because he had this great idea of how he would bring the killer and the grieving mother together. And there would be these pictures of him. It's not quite Camp David material, but, you know, it could help him. Can you imagine being there in the presence of the President of the United States, who is beckoning you to go through that door? And the British woman said, no. Blew up the whole plan. So the woman, the murderer, standing on the other side, and she wouldn't do it. I have to tell you, that takes a level of courage that few people have. When you are in a position like standing in the most powerful place in the world, or it used to be at least, I think it's now in Moscow, but having the fortitude to not get played, standing up and refusing to be a part of this photo op charade that the president had in mind. So I just want to say my favorite person of the day, maybe the week, is this extraordinary woman. A woman who would not even be known, noticed. One of those people who lives her life, goes through life, has sorrows, as we know, tragedies, as we know, good times, bad times, and finds herself at one point in the Oval Office and says to the President of the United States, no. I love her. Just saying. So that was my favorite thing. They're not, and can you imagine the woman who killed the kid, the murderer, I've been calling her, which seems, the reckless driver, the murderous driver, on the other end, standing there with other handlers waiting to be part of this, reconciliation? What were they even thinking? All this British couple wants is justice. A measure of justice. That the person who killed their son have a measure of justice. I don't know. And speaking of the center of the power in the universe being not in Washington, D.C. anymore, but in Moscow, I got to get this in. Here is some reporting coming from Syria that we don't see because it is reporting by Russian reporters embedded with Russian troops in Syria, and they are reporting things such as this. I will quote one who is like giddy Russian reporter. I am on an American base where they were just yesterday morning, and this morning we're here. Standing in an American base, another reporter standing in a room with Pringles cans and animal crackers on a table, all the stuff clearly showing Americans were here, reporting back breathlessly, the Americans packed so quickly that they left behind some of their property and personal items. I believe it was yesterday that I said we're going to potentially see, although I don't know if we ever will see it, video akin to the ending moments of America in Vietnam with helicopters hovering overhead as we attempt to get our people out as the enemy closes in. Astonishing how Trump truly has diminished our standing in the world in a way that is breathtaking. We were the main power in the Middle East. Almost anywhere in the world, people would look to us. Under Trump, we said, never mind. And now it's Vladimir Putin, without a doubt, our enemy. And without a doubt, the guy who's been manipulating Donald Trump since before day one. Here is somebody commenting, foreign policy analyst, and he wants everybody to know that this is the result. Putin is like now bestride the Middle East like a Goliath. But listen to this. This guy, Schmidt, I don't know, he's got a German name. He says this: it must be said that all of Russia's most significant successes here have not been reached as a result of Moscow's deliberate efforts. They simply crashed down onto Putin, right into his lap, as manna from heaven, as a result of the diplomatic ease, peculiar behavior of the West. Read us. So he's saying, don't think Putin is being such a genius manipulator here. No, we just handed him. Incredible power. And countries in the Middle East now are falling all over themselves to ingratiate themselves with Putin. Because in the land of geopolitics, you got to know where the power is. Turkey's Erdogan is going to be in Moscow in a day or two, flying over, because he knows where his bread is buttered. He doesn't have to do any calls with Donald Trump anymore. And as a matter of fact, headline in the New York Times today, Pence and Pompeo, that's our Vice President and Secretary of Defense, heading to Turkey to seek a ceasefire. Ha! Good luck with that. It ain't happening. And there is talk that Erdogan will not even deign to see them. They are inconsequential now. America might as well be, Botswana. It ain't happening. They hold no cards. Nobody trusts them. It ain't happening. This is all part of a desperate now and scrambled, as this piece says, effort to wrest back control of the chaos in Syria. We've got no cards. Our military is trapped. They're ignominiously running, abandoning their camps to the deliriously happy Russians. They remain in danger, which is why we got Pence and Pompeo asking to get some ceasefire going here. But they have no leverage, none. Trump gave it away in that other perfect phone call of his. This one with Erdogan. So you have just Trump doing foreign policy. 2 phone calls that we now know of. One, which has now resulted in the impeachment inquiry, in which he withholds almost $500 million in military aid to an ally fighting Russia, because he sees it as leverage to get dirt on a potential nominee of the Democrats, Biden. Is absolutely a crime to allow a foreign entity into the democratic electoral process. That's how Trump got in the first time with the Russians. He was hoping the Ukrainians would give him a little lift this time, because God knows the Russians will be there. And then last Saturday night, his conversation with Erdogan of Turkey. And Erdogan wanted to go in and kill Kurds. But we had American soldiers there, and the Kurds are our allies. And Trump, without talking to anybody, says, sure, go for it. And he did. And now there's lots of dead Kurds and Americans on the run and Russians triumphant, and our vice president and secretary of defense running over there desperately trying to, obsequiously, I'm sure, to get Erdogan to listen to them. Trump opened the door, and it's over. Putin came in. Even the Israelis are meeting with Putin now a lot. So fine. All you folks who were sick of the United States being a world power, well, we're not much. Look at that, and wearing the colors.
Oh, yeah, USA.
USA,
Yeah.
USA. All right.
Got my MLK pen over here too. See that? I got that at the
That's really nice. And what is that? That looks
I
like
got it at the historical, National MLK Center in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what's this? This looks like the.
Oh yeah, this was like I think they sold these when the U.S. was in the World Cup or whatever.
Because that looks like the presidential seal. There. I hate to tell you.
Oh, well, that's okay. There's still a lot.
I'm
of
afraid it
presidents
looks
up
like the presidential.
I mean, he's only 1 out of 45. I mean, there's a lot of bad ones too. There's way more than just the current president. But Woodrow Wilson was pretty bad, I think, too.
Oh well, there's lots of bad ones. But no one can compare. I mean, in a class by himself. You know, I was thinking, damn it, this guy is the most successful pathological narcissist in world history. Come up with
I'm thinking.
Okay.
I'm trying to think.
Well, okay. So I mean, maybe Genghis Khan. I don't know.
Definitely modern history, right?
Definitely modern history.
Yeah. I mean, he is a Hall of Fame narcissist. To be honest, he's on the Mount Rushmore of narcissists.
The whole world trembles. There's no one like it.
It's remarkable.
So
how
when
much
people
of a narcissist
I know, and successful.
Yeah.
Because here
he's a child of a multimillionaire. So I mean, it's not that there's a really good article in the Huffington Post that's basically all about how it's impossible for like rich children to fail, or it's becoming more and more impossible for them to fail.
Because they've got such a head start.
Yeah, exactly. Right, and they just they're still in these leadership positions, even the really dumb ones,
Well, tell me about it.
Yeah.
You haven't. There was a time that one of them was, I believe, your boss. Were you here when?
Wait, who?
Who was the guy who looked like he belonged on a yacht with a place?
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to talk about that.
Well, I know it, but I will. I mean, a total doofus. The only thing going for him was, money.
Well, yes.
Okay, he doesn't want to talk.
I'm not going to talk about that.
That's what I say. Yeah, so...
Oh, yes.
You have a story. Ryan Deto, Chief.
Yeah, sure.
Chief Deto.
Chief Deto. That's what everyone calls me. Cheeto.
Or Cheeto. There's an idea. I think he just gave himself a nickname. Okay, so you said, did you read my piece on Zappala?
Yes.
And I said, no.
Okay. So it's actually more tangentially about Zappala, but anyway.
Zappala, by the way, for anybody who's not in Pittsburgh, is our long-tenured district attorney here.
Extremely long.
Yes.
20 years plus, I think. And so we have a very significant and large district attorney race election coming up in just a few weeks, I guess. And
this is a primary.
No, general.
Fuck.
Yeah.
This is a general.
Yeah, this is for all the marbles. This is why this is a big deal.
This is the off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cullen.
Yes.
It's November.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's really snuck up on us. I'm like, because I have to work on my election guide basically like right now.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So anyway, yes, Trump. We have debates. It's so great. All these debates, all this stuff, but. In Allegheny County, we have a very, very significant district attorney race coming up. Zappala's been the district attorney for 20-plus years. He has never really faced a significant challenger in that time. He was appointed at first, and then he won, I think, election. But I think he might have not had an opponent. So, Teron Jenkins, who faced off against him in the primary, was probably one of his, biggest opponents in a long time. But Teron lost. It's kind of a flawed candidate, honestly, even though he seems like a good guy.
Yes.
But a big race coming up, and so big that Zappala, who is a Democrat, a registered Democrat, and he won the Democratic primary. He was endorsed by the party before that. He was the only candidate in he was the only district attorney candidate to apply for that endorsement, got the endorsement, won the primary, and so he's the Democrat on the ballot. He also cross-filed.
He's also the Republican on the ballot.
Yes, he also cross-filed,
which I don't think
do
should be allowed.
I agree. I think it's really
fucking
stupid.
Insane.
It's stupid.
Okay, right.
Yes, the cross-filing. So he's on the Democratic and Republican ballot, but he has a challenger, an independent, who has significant support right now. And what's really interesting, what my story is all about, is how the Democratic committee members, those who are like elected or appointed that sit on the Democratic committee that basically are members of the party in Allegheny County, a chunk of them are openly supporting the independent candidate.
Lisa Middleman.
Yes, Lisa Middleman. And it's intrigue, and it's a little bit of like a revolt within the party, so much so that the chair recently sent out an email to committee chairs that is like reminding them, oh, by the way, you can't support
Who says?
an independent candidate.
Oh, that's their
That's the bylaws. That's like the state bylaws that they have to do. But at the same time, it's not an automatic removal. Anyway, there's a significant chunk.
When you say significant, what percentage of the?
Well, there's no way for me to know unless I talk to every single one. But there were people in the 14th ward, which is
that's not surprising,
of course. But there were also people in McCandless. There were people in Upper St. Clair that I heard about. The people on the north side. So there's and I have people tweeting at me and stuff like that, being like, oh, I don't support Zappala. I'm going to support Middleman. And these are people who are elected Democratic Party, basically officials.
I was thinking back to the last, I guess 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, the midterm election, when obviously a ton of other people all over the country went in and voted. We voted for people we didn't even know, but they weren't the people we did know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
He's gonna kill me.
Please explain.
It was an anti-incumbent.
Okay.
There's an anti-incumbent. Throw the bums out.
There's
kind
definitely
of
an
a thing.
anti-incumbent mentality.
Like, let's just come on. I'm sick of this.
Yeah.
I don't know what. And so, there was a lot of surprise that I can't. I'm sorry, I can't give you a chapter and verse. But I remember a lot of, it's like, Inamorado and that.
Oh, okay.
All of these people coming out of nowhere.
Yes. Oh, wait, you're talking about 2018.
Oh, yes. I guess
okay, I thought you were talking about a midterm. Bygone.
No, 2018.
Got it. Yes,
and
absolutely.
There was this sort of astonishment.
Yes.
That people who had the right names.
Yeah,
Costa, in this case, Zappala.
Yeah.
Who nobody thought for a minute
were
too, that's true.
Yeah.
They're all Italians. So, I mean, she's got a tough.
She has an uphill climb, but I think what's so interesting about it is that these are elected party officials that are willing to basically risk removal from the committee or a suspension that they're saying. It's a little unclear, but I mean, they can remove them for openly supporting independents because, well, you're on the party. You're supposed to support the party, right? Why else are you on the party? But that it has to go through like the state process or something like that. So it's still kind of, I guess it's still up in the air, but yes, the bylaws say that you can be removed. These people are willing to risk removal from their committee so that they can support an independent because they do not believe Zappala is a Democrat, basically. He's not campaigning as a Democrat, at all.
He's just sort of a law and order type, the establishment.
And he's gone even harder that way since the campaign.
And people are going the other way.
Yes.
So...
I'm saying it's so interesting to see that there's this revolt, I guess, that isn't just people who are like the DSA members, or that isn't just people who are like advocate groups. This
DSA, Democratic Socialists.
Democratic Socialists of America. Like that are doing this. You're starting to see this now. If obviously Zappala is going to probably get the GOP vote because he's like angling hard for it, but obviously there's way more Democrats in Allegheny County. If he loses a lot of Democrats and you get those like people who are, more left to come out.
Don't get too excited.
There's a chance. I think there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Yes.
It's interesting.
As long as people don't go in and vote just straight ticket.
You can't vote straight ticket.
Yes. No one should vote straight ticket
ever.
for this.
Well, no. That's not true because.
Well, no, for this race, I'm saying
not
is that
true.
like
right.
And there just aren't that many. That one, there's a lot of independent candidates that are running that are like legitimate, and two, there's it's just. It's our DA race. It's a big deal. If
nobody understands that the district attorney is an extraordinarily powerful figure, and with people knowing how broken our criminal justice system is, you need new blood. You need people who are.
That's what's so interesting to me about this race is that you basically have people, and even conservatives are saying we need to overhaul this system. And Zappala
that's true. And he somehow...
But he is campaigning as what I'm doing is right. But everybody says that it's not. And there's so many stories that show that it's not. He held 4 teens in jail for 15 months that were innocent. Recently, that just happened. He prosecutes black teens at a exponentially higher rate than white teens in our county. Like, it's just these are all these issues. Our jail is a mess, right? And so I understand support for Zappala if you believe on those like tougher on crime things, but at the same time, if you believe that our system needs to be reformed, he's not offering any kind of reform message, and he could. He easily could, but he's not.
He's not.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, I hope. So do you know what the state bird of Pennsylvania is?
I just wrote an article about this, by the way. It's the ruffed grouse. 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 How do I pronounce it?
Grouse.
Whatever.
She growled at him.
My state bird is a California quail. Where I'm from.
You did?
Ruffed.
Well, I had this out for you for a long time to tell you
this. No, that's great. We can talk about it.
So the Pennsylvania ruffed. It's a ruffled. It is the most, I guess, popular bird that hunters like to go and kill.
I think it's hard to get.
But I think, isn't that weird that you'd name something your state bird and then you'd go kill it?
Well, we have a lot of hunters here. Why not?
Well, I think
the white-tailed
the
deer.
bald eagle is our national bird, and you can't.
But they used to a lot.
Yeah, but
I think our state mammal is the white-tailed deer, and we shoot those things all the time. And honestly, we should because there's way too many of them.
Oh, stop!
They don't have any predators.
I know. And whose fault is that?
Well, that's our fault, but we have to balance it out somehow. You
got rid of all the felines that were taken down.
And the wolves.
Yeah. Anyway, so the National Audubon Society and a whole bunch of others has done this study, and because of climate change, birds are not going to be able to live where they have for a long, long time. And a lot of state birds are not going to be living in those states. None of them.
No, they're gonna have to change the. They're gonna have to pass new laws, give new state bird.
No, so our ruffed grouse.
Yeah.
The odds are pretty good that neither summer nor winter will they find good habitat.
Oh yeah, because they basically live mostly in the northern part of the state where there's snow for long stretches of the year. They love snow.
So the ruffed grouse, guess where it's going? Canada.
Yeah, or New York first, I guess.
Medical care. Serious.
Pot too.
Too. They know where to go. The ruffed grouse. It's gone. It's going to be gone, right?
Yeah.
So what? I mean, you got.
Well, yeah. I've actually just wrote an article. Yes, there's a study that these state birds are in danger, including our state bird. I also wrote an article that basically saying the same thing, that there's a like a wildlife advocacy group that does a climate change index for animals, and not only is our state bird, the ruffed grouse, in danger, but our state amphibian is in danger. And our state fish is in danger too, the brook trout. And the brook trout is the only trout species that is native to Pennsylvania waters. That is impressive. And it is going to be gone. And that is actually a really popular again, animal to fish for. And I know it is like a weird thing to be like, oh, we should protect these animals. But at the same time, that's part of Pennsylvania life, is going out and catching brook trout. And you might not be able to do that if the waters warm up too much. They need cold waters, basically. Right. And the more it warms, the less, obviously, the waters are going to warm up. And then the more there's going to be less shade and tree cover near our streams. And the brook trout need those things. And with the hellbender, which is our state amphibian, is also in danger because it needs really, really clean water.
That was just named,
and that was just named, which was kind of like part of it. It was kind of part of it. It was
because
like,
it's in danger.
Because it's in danger, and it's the largest amphibian in North America, which is really cool. I think it's like 2 feet long sometimes,
and really ugly. And
it's
it
super
looks.
ugly.
It's also called the snot
otter.
Snot otter.
Mud.
It's got like
mud
this,
dog.
right,
Allegheny alligator. It's got so many great nicknames. It really does. It's a really cool animal.
So Minnesota's state bird is the loon.
Oh, loons, they're great.
Going to be gone.
I saw some in Canada when I was up there. Actually.
Yeah, well, they're totally gone.
Yeah, it's sad. Why even?
New Jersey, the goldfinches, say goodbye.
We can stop it. It's not impossible. Man, I wish we'd stop fracking. That would be that would help a lot.
Here, said, see, some birds will try to adapt. They'll change their nesting times. They'll try to change their diets. But, up to a point. But at some point, a lot of this change in climate will change the habitat to the point where the species simply cannot.
It's just too rapid. It's too rapid. Like, animals can adapt, but when the climate is changing this rapidly, which is obviously caused by human, activity, that's a big problem. I think there was a New York Times report. A lot of people, like, obviously the biggest problem is industrial sources, these like big polluters that are doing it, but cars are a huge problem too.
Yeah,
and we are still growing our car emissions, even in Pennsylvania. Yeah.
We have a call. Yeah, but he don't have no headphone.
Oh,
that's okay. Well,
just take it. You can relay.
Okay. Go ahead. Caller, be relatively brief because Ryan here doesn't have a headset. Hi.
Okay. Hi, this is Kurt in Swiss Elm Park.
Hi, Kurt.
Hi. Hey, just getting back to the election coming up, I wondered if you guys wanted to comment on the two initiatives, the victims' rights one and the park tax initiative.
Great.
My opinion is that both of them are bad.
Right.
Victims' rights one seems too broad, and the ACLU seems to be against it.
Right.
And the park one, saying, well, the library tax was a good idea, but ever since then it seems like that's everybody's bright idea.
Great question.
So,
thank you, Kurt. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Kurt. Bye.
All
So
right.
he wants to talk.
Bye.
He wanted your opinion
Okay.
on when we go to vote in November.
Yeah.
There's going to be two referenda.
Oh, baby. Yeah.
And you're seeing interminable ads about one of them, about the woman who's raped.
Oh,
and
Marcy's
then-
Law.
Yeah, Marcy's
Yeah.
Law. So one of them is about Marcy's Law.
Yeah, it's
right?
a victim
Victims'
rights
rights
law.
law.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, it sounds right. Let's go. The ACLU.
They hate it.
They say this is just out of. I mean, it's way too broad.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
will create havoc.
Yes, that's what I've heard too. And I'm actually working on a story to try to explain a little bit more. I think what's really interesting that hasn't been told in Pennsylvania, and we're going to vote on this thing pretty soon, is the history behind this law. It was started by like a right-wing billionaire, basically, out in California, who's like been in jail and he's a bad guy. I mean, like, obviously people who go to jail aren't bad, but I mean, like, necessarily. But this dude has like a very questionable history and very questionable motives. But it's so easy for him because he's got all this money to go around to state legislators and say, "Don't you care about victims?" And of course, politicians are going to jump on that and be like, well, of course we care. So the governor's jumped on it, Shapiro's jumped on it, Zappala's jumped on it. Like, all these people
they are all for it.
Yeah, all these Democrats are also joining, Republicans. It's already passed the state legislator easily because it's so hard to to say no to.
That people aren't going to stop it.
No, it's probably going to pass anyway just because the question is so broad.
Don't vote for it. It is a mess.
Well, at least please go Google it. Google the founder. I got to figure out his name. And so do extensive research on this. It is incredibly broad. It will probably what I've heard the criticism of it is that it gives extensively more rights to victims at the cost of the accused. And so we're basically shifting the balance when we need to have the balance stay in balance, obviously, because
Right.
people who are accused, there are plenty of people who've been falsely accused of crimes. Again, in
And
Allegheny
falsely convicted.
In Allegheny County, we just held 4 teenagers in jail for 15 months. Their alibis were easily proven, and they weren't because Zapala decided to go through a grand jury, process that makes it harder for the defense to come up and say, hey, we have these alibis, basically. And they were held in there for 15 months. That's going to cost us millions of dollars when those lawsuits
Not to
go
mention
through.
what it costs those young people
Yes, exactly.
in their lives.
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, so
Disgusting.
So yes, Marcy's law is highly suspect.
Okay, the
Please,
other one
the Parks referendum,
is a Parks referendum.
This is just for Pittsburgh voters.
Just for Pittsburgh
The city of Pittsburgh
voters.
voters.
It's sort of like we had a library one not too long ago that was passed.
Yeah.
This one, people are very tepid about.
So I'm also working on a story about this. So please stay tuned to City Paper. Hopefully I'll try to get them all in before the election. I got a lot of work ahead of me. But so yes, it is basically raising property taxes, I believe, 0.5% or something like that, or mills or whatever the heck it is, and to fund to give more money to the Pittsburgh Park Conservancy that will then use that for park restoration, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's questionable about this is, one, the city has a surplus right now. So the city has a decent budget right now. We got out of Act, whatever it was, the financial Act. Got out of that. We've been raising money. We've already raised the realty transfer tax to pay for more affordable housing, which I have to say is a very incredible thing that we did in this county. I mean, in this city, I thought so. And so we've done these things. I'm not against raising taxes to fund things. I think that can be a great idea. But again, do we need to in this instance right now is the question, if we have a budget surplus.
And doesn't it, I mean, that money then goes to a sort of quasi,
Yes, it does not go into the city general fund, basically.
No.
It goes directly to the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, which is a nonprofit that runs our parks basically for the city. So it's a weird thing. And really interesting, and this is what my story is going to be about, is that the current director of the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy came from Minneapolis, where she tried to do the same exact thing in Minneapolis like 2 years ago, and it failed. She tried to get a tax referendum through to funnel money into this public-private partnership. The city of Minneapolis initially was like, oh, good idea. And then the city council was like, oh, I don't know about this. And then, so the city council just ended up raising taxes on the city, get that money to go directly into the general fund. And they said, like, we'll take care of this. It's more accountable that way, right? Because you can count council meetings, you can talk to your city councilor and all this stuff. If you give it directly to the, Parks Conservancy, which is what I believe is happening here. I meant to double check that. But then there's less accountability, basically.
Exactly.
And so it's another thing that's, again, I think it'll probably pass because they have a ton of money too, and they've been advertising like crazy.
I don't know that it'll pass.
But I guess the city of Pittsburgh voters tend to be a little bit more
progressive.
Yeah.
They're willing to be taxed. Let me tell you.
No, I mean,
vote.
they're skeptical too.
Oh,
I would
skeptical?
say. Yeah, I would say
Vote no on both these things.
No opinion. Right
well,
now.
You can't. But I have an
go for
opinion.
it.
Vote no on both of these referenda, and vote for Lisa Middleman. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I wanted to. This is you would love this headline, right?
Baby.
Cars really are death machines. And I sort of thought you wrote this damn thing. I thought, I didn't know we went to the New York Times.
Oh man, give me that NYT money. That's what I need.
Right. And it's just, this article says everything that you always squawk about. That to make our streets safe, you don't need smart cars or driverless cars. You need fewer.
Yes, fewer, slower
cars. But I never heard this. They said one of the safety measures that are being encouraged, because pedestrian fatalities in this country have just skyrocketed in the last decade.
Yep,
Just
they're back up to the level in the
skyrocketed.
90s.
Yeah. I mean, 41%.
It's
up.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's
They're
awful.
just knocking people out left, right, and center, and it's USUV guys that
It's
are
also,
killing.
It's totally an epidemic nationwide that gets no attention, and it's except for like articles like this, but it's not on the level where we're talking about it in presidential debates, and it should be.
Yeah, it should be.
But yeah, sorry.
So anyway, one of the things that I thought was so bizarre was they said one of the safety measures that are talked about is for you and me who are walking and people like Ryan who are pedaling should be wearing an RFID tag. Do you know what that stands for?
Oh, please tell me.
No, I don't know. It doesn't even say.
It doesn't even say.
RFID.
Reflective, maybe it's like reflective.
Something.
This has been a long thing.
So we're all supposed to be wearing this thing.
Well, we should all wear yellow reflective vests
Yes,
that flash
right,
at all
right.
times.
And
required
right.
that we have to pay for too, by the way.
Right.
Just for walking and biking.
RFID tags, you and me, and those tags emit signals that cars detect.
Or drivers can just pay attention and slow down.
That would be true too.
Or that.
So what struck me about this, it's called radio frequency identification.
Okay, so it's like a blipper. It's like what you put on animals when you're tracking them, basically. Like
Almighty.
On like mountain
So
lions.
they're telling us who are not in the cars,
We're like mountain lions.
walking, and that we need to arm ourselves. We need to set off.
It's our fault. Which is like victim blaming.
I
It's
know.
victim blaming.
It's like that's what I wanted to say. I read this and I thought, why? It's just like the rape stuff. Like
And everything else.
she
in this
asked
country.
for it. Well, the victim, the women, stop being raped.
Yes. Cyclists, stop
Right.
stop driving in the streets your legal right, by the way. Stop riding in the streets your legal right. Pedestrians, stop walking across the streets, apparently.
Jeez. And another one, see the front SUVs, because they're bigger
up higher.
and
They'll
higher.
hit you in the chest instead of the
They
legs.
if they get hit, you get hit in the chest or head.
Where your
And
vital organs
so these SUVs you guys love so much, you're killing walkers, runners, cyclists, and children.
Not only that, they are also, there was just a study that came out yesterday that showed that SUVs are the second leading increase, have the second highest rate of increase of greenhouse gases in America. That's it. It's SUVs. We stopped buying SUVs for a time when gas prices were going up. Does everyone remember? It was great.
Yeah.
And then that gas prices went down again. Thanks,
Everyone
Obama.
went right back.
We went right back to SUVs. Like it was like no fucking thing. Like we did not care about the environment anymore. We did not care about children getting hit by cars. I mean, these SUVs and also some of these very large trucks. I know some people need large trucks for construction and all these things, but not all you do. And you have these pickups are massive.
They're massive, and
They
you
are
always
5
see
feet
one.
high. My girlfriend is only 5'1" or 2. That would hit her in the head, and
Yeah.
she walks to work. And it's
You see people. I am so sick of it, and because I do drive on occasion. and I drove down
as do
today.
I. I also drive on occasion. I just want to let everyone know I have a car and I drive. It's fine.
Okay. But you guys in your SUVs and on your
Just want people
texting,
to think about it.
and I just keep seeing. I'm so sick of seeing like one person in these mammoth, damn vehicles.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's like, and I don't understand the justification for them. Is like, oh well, sometimes I have to take my whole family on a trip. Rent a car. You don't need it all the time. Why do we think we need to have everything at our convenience all the time? It's not that hard to rent a car. It's actually really easy. You know, it's like, I mean, come on. Like we can think differently about this. And I'm not saying everybody has to go withhold themselves for everything, but can we at least be open to the conversation? Can we at least not shut down people like me and you who are like, hey, everyone, maybe we should drive less. Like maybe we should slow down. That's all I think I would like to see is people just being open to the conversation. Instead, it's a reactionary, like, no, you're just like a urban elite or something. Like, no, I am poor and I ride my bike because it's cheap.
It all comes back to, Americans, the ethos of freedom and individualism.
But what about freedom to ride my bike?
Yeah, well.
What about freedom to walk and not get hit by a car? Like, yes, you're right. It comes back to freedom, but that freedom is only for the privileged, I guess. It's only for the people who can afford to buy SUVs and who live in places where they box themselves into. They live in places where they have to drive. And then they go, why isn't there mass transit? Because you don't support it. You don't support politicians who actually support it. Mike Turzai, everyone who lives in that district should vote that guy out if you want to see a bus. And if you want, they don't have a bus right now into that district. It's ridiculous. And it's because of him.
I overheard a guy who lived in Germany for the last 5 years at a local eatery the other day. And he now lives in Pittsburgh, and he called it a hidden jewel, and he loves it and all this stuff. And then he said, but I can't believe you see people waiting for buses in the cold and in the snow and in the rain, unsheltered. It's inhumane. What is with, I mean, he couldn't get over that there wasn't this sense of you. So
we got a chance in Pittsburgh, though. We are primed for it. That's all I'm going to say. We are primed. We got a chance.
And we're out of time. We're totally out of time. We're over time. I thank you very much, Ryan Deto, or Cheeto, as we now call him. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.